This is, what, second time in 2-3 weeks that we've been together. I'm not biased, but I'm happy to introduce the FedRAMP tailored team.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for having us. My name is Ashley Mahan. I'm your FedRAMP evangelist.
And I'm Matt Goodrich. I'm the director of the PMO at GSA. We're super excited to be here with everybody and to be in the top 8. Everyone else has really great, innovative things that they're doing. I think we're a little bit better, but
just a little. I'm kind of nervous about Code.gov. They had some cool swag sweatshirts. We should have thought of that.
So we wanted to quick talk just briefly about, we're talking one part of what we do at FedRAMP, but generally give a little background on what FedRAMP is for those of you that might not be really aware of what we are as a program. But we were created out of the Cloud Computing Initiative. I came into government 10 years ago, started on the Federal Cloud Computing Initiative. Our mission was to reduce the barriers to adoption of cloud. Everybody said the biggest barrier to moving to the cloud was security. I raised my hand and said, sure, I'll take that on. Here I am 10 years later, still taking it on. And FedRAMP grew out of that. And so what we wanted to do was to prove to federal agencies that the security of cloud systems was as secure as what they were using. In fact, many times more secure than what they have in their legacy IT. So moving to the cloud and modernizing was actually something they could do safely and securely.
And so we had 2 goals in mind. One is that we want to make sure that when our federal information goes into these cloud environments, it's protected and it's secured. And number 2, if there's a set of security requirements that these vendors have to meet, once they meet it once, we wanted to make sure that each agency can reuse that information. So one of the taglines you hear from FedRAMP a lot is do once, use many.
And one thing to think about that too that's interesting is not only are we an organization that's talking and dealing with every agency, but any private sector company that wants to come in and work with an agency directly has to work through our program. So we're not only having an impact to agencies, but directly impacting our vendors and vendors that want to work with the government. So we're really acutely aware of both sort of spaces and what the unique needs are of both teams. So for that, if people are in government and people who are trying to work with the government probably feel like that guy in the photo many times, working with the government's hard. There's lots of laws, there's lots of regulations, there's lots of policies. It's difficult to get the work done sometimes and to actually just do what you need to do. And so what we've tried to do with FedRAMP is make sure that as we're modernizing and as we're doing that, we're trying to break down a lot of those barriers to the way that people do business. We aren't necessarily changing the laws and the policies, but we're looking at how we can innovate and do our work differently. At the heart of what we do in government's been around, since we've been a country, right? All these laws, FSMA, everything else has been around for 20 plus years. But that doesn't mean we can't act like a startup. It doesn't mean we can't think like in doing new things in new ways. We don't have to continue to do something in the same process that people have been doing because you've always been doing it. That's what we're good at in government, is continuing to do the status quo. However, as an organization, we want to innovate. We want to do things new. We know we have these harsh guardrails, but how could we think about it in a different way so that everyone's life is easier and can frankly just do their job?
And at FedRAMP, we realized we're at the nexus of this between industry and government and using these really cool, innovative cloud products. And we realized as a team that we wanted to innovate and come up with this really cool, creative idea called FedRAMP Tailored.
So with that, what we saw was there's a lot of cloud services that agencies are using that are sort of shadow IT, and they're low risk. They're things that really are helping people do their job a bit easier, faster, more efficient. They're not necessarily mission critical, but people are using them sort of under the radar and weren't able to really use them openly and across the entire agency. And so what we wanted to do was figure out a way that we could bring them into government. We knew we had something that was a baseline that technically applied to these vendors, but no one was taking advantage of it because it was too hard and too difficult, and we didn't think about how to make it easier for vendors and agencies to do.
And so what we're doing at FedRAMP is we're really encouraging agencies to get to know their data and prioritize their most critical systems and make more of a risk management decision, and saying if I need my system to meet 421 unique security requirements, that's fine, but I better be putting very mission critical, life-threatening data into that system. And with FedRAMP Tailored, it's a risk management approach that allows agencies working with industry to tailor down that control set that's commensurate with the data and the level of risk of that data if it gets out there for these types of systems, and to lower those security requirements.
And so to get to where we're going to go with the next slide, It was really expensive. You're talking for a low system that's low data, that's basically public things are making your life easier. We were talking 125 controls. You were talking 6 to 8 months to actually implement and test that. And you're talking upwards of potentially 6 figures to actually get through that process. That's unattainable for some of these services that many times have a freemium model where people weren't even paying to use them or paying minimally, maybe even being able to pay on a P card to use that. So with tailored, what we wanted to do was Ashley was talking about, we wanted to tailor our requirements in case you saw us come up. If you got hit by a Cadillac earlier and you walk around, sorry, I wasn't very good at driving this with it. But what we wanted to do with tailored was make a sort of analogy between a Cadillac Escalade and a Barbie bike.
And so with the Cadillac Escalade, take these as kind of like there's different use cases for each one of these transportation vehicles, right? I will talk a little bit about the Cadillac Escalade, but keep in mind the metaphor that we're going to attribute this to different data types here in a minute, so bear with us. So with the Cadillac Escalade, I can go cross country, I can load up my 5-person family in there. I think I can sleep in my Cadillac Escalade. I can get Wi-Fi in there. There's lots of different use cases for my Cadillac Escalade and me being in there. And so that's why with my Cadillac Escalade, I need to protect that puppy. I need to have a multi-layered defense. I am locking that up in my garage that has cars locked, alarm systems on. It's alarmed in my garage. So there is multiple layers to protect this bad boy because there is a lot that can happen in this Cadillac Escalade and it's very, very, very expensive.
And the Barbie bike makes life easier. You can get around your neighborhood faster. You lock it up, you might put it in the garage, you might use a U-lock. That's about it. If something happens to it, it's annoying, but it's not a big deal. That's what the type of systems we're looking at. Things that are productivity that if it goes away, yes, there's another way to still do your job. It makes your job easier. So that's what we're trying to attack is figure out a way to do security like that. And so what we've done is we've created this with working with industry, we were able to create a policy that has 35 controls instead of 125 controls, which is drastically reducing that. That means it's about a fourth of the controls, it's about a fourth of the time, it's about a fourth of the money. We actually have a vendor that got through with 2 systems in 6 weeks, nuts to bolts.
Writing the documentation, getting the controls tested, and the whole nine.
And we look at what it used to take 6 months, 8 months, sometimes 18 months to get through, and hundreds of thousands of dollars. We're talking a partnership where the vendor didn't actually outlay any money for an assessment. It was really just staff time to get through and document. That's a ridiculous amount of money that's saved for the government as well as the vendor itself.
So we're really, to kind of bring it home, empowering agencies to make that risk-based decision, understand the different data types that they have going into these cloud environments, and then tailoring down the security requirements based on what they're using this product for. For any security practitioners out there, we always say, does it pass the front page of any metropolitan news test? And the data elements that are going into these vendors or into these environments, yes, it does. It's low impact data, and that therefore we can make sure this framework's in place for agencies and vendors to use.
And to hammer down the innovation piece, 3 ways we think we're innovative. We created this with industry. Industry helped create the policy. We didn't do this from the government saying, hey, industry, do this. We said, industry, tell us what makes sense for you. That's pretty innovative. The government doesn't do that very much. Second, it's innovative because we're looking at the process we did differently. We combined all of our documents from 15 down to 1. We looked at ways that we can say we attested controls rather than having to fully test it. That's a very different way to approach it as well. Also, we're creating a new place for innovative companies to come in that allow the government to innovate themselves. So we create a process that's innovative to get them in, but also allowing every other government agency to innovate based on using these services. So thanks for the time again.
Thank you.
And congrats to the other finalists as well. Thanks.
All right, first of all, you need to change the name of that test to the Government Matters test rather than the newspaper test, because, I mean, come on.
Every metropolitan newspaper test,
Right.
or media outlet test.
Okay.
Gov Matters.
Regarding the risk management framework that you talked about, do you or does someone else inside GSA have resources to help agencies do that if they're struggling with where do I put stuff?
Yes, I can definitely phone a friend, agency@fedramp.gov. You're more than welcome to contact us at any time. We work with agencies and industry providers and seeing, okay, do you pass the litmus test? Does FedRAMP Tailor qualify for you? And then we work with the agency to make sure that they understand the process and what their roles and responsibilities are.
Terrific.
I'd say we probably spend roughly, I don't know, 20% of our energy helping vendors and helping agencies. So of all the efforts that we do besides directly working with the Joint Authorization Board and other stuff, Ashley and her team, it really is companies come in, ask questions, let's strategize with you, let's find an agency that's the best partner with you. That's a large part of the work. So if people are asking, definitely ask us. Reach out to info or agency at FedRAMP.gov.
Excellent. Thanks both very much. Nice to see you.